The most important one's going to be what we said earlier, living loved. If you don't know you're loved by God and God wants to heal things in your life, you'll not be a healer in the world. If you've got to protect and defend your position for your own benefit and quote unquote blessing, you'll not be a healer in the world. You're going to be a selfish person in the world.
Welcome to the Daron Earlewine Podcast, where we awaken you to become who you were born to be. Here's your host, Daron Earlewine.
Welcome back to the Daron Earlewine Podcast. Oh man, it's good to have you guys back to part two. Dose. It's a multicultural episode. Part two of the Wayne Jacobsen interview. This is episode 54, and I'm so stoked to have you guys back. And it's a good day to be alive. It's a beautiful, sunshiny fall day here in Indiana. And how do you guys feel about fall? What are your thoughts on fall? For me, here's the deal. Grew up in Arizona. I've shared that before. I know I have. And in Arizona, we have two seasons. We have summer, and then we have brown. That's all you get. Okay. But the great part about summer is it's this summer and it's awesome. It's warm. And the thing about brown in Arizona is it's still sunny. It's just everything dies and it's brown. And if you don't like brown, then you don't like winter in Arizona. What I like about winter in Arizona is 65 to 70 degrees still and beautiful sun. Now, when I moved to Indiana, it took me 4 years, and I'm not exaggerating, just for a good story here on the podcast. It took me 4 years to appreciate the idea of seasons. People would be like, don't you love all the 4 seasons? I'd be like, no, I like the sunshine. You're a moron. Then the Holy Spirit brought me back to stop calling people morons, which I'm trying to work on. And then I started to realize the joy of fall in Indiana, right? Because here's what we just had. Summer's been so good. We've been sweating for a while, and I have a very strict policy on sweating. I don't know how you guys feel about sweating. For me, the deal with sweating is if I'm in a sweat-ready situation, right? If I'm coaching baseball, I know I'm going to sweat. If I'm coaching football, if I'm working out, this is a situation where sweating is expected and it's welcomed. No problem. I know sweat's going to happen. We've been doing this for lots of months. My problem with sweating is if I'm in a situation where I'm not sweat ready. You know what I'm saying? You're wearing an outfit or something, some kind of, you just don't want to sweat. You don't want to smell. I'm also very smell phobic. People come to me all the time. Maybe they give me a hug. And they go, oh, you smell so good. And I say, I try. And I do. I'm very, very, I kind of have a hyperphobic thing of just smelling, right? So the thing about summer is you're going to have quite a few situations where I was not sweat ready and I am full on perspiring. The chance of smelling here is strong to very strong. This is an issue. Here's the thing about fall. Fall, there are not very many times in fall where you find yourself just profusively perspiring on a complete surprise. You're going to be like, it's going to be a little bit of chill in the air. The leaves are going to change in football. Hello, come on, fall. It's good days. Anyway, none of that was supposed to be a part of the podcast. I just wanted to share with you how I feel about fall and sweating. I like fall. I like football. I don't really love sweating. Anyway, this is episode 54. It's a beautiful day here in Indiana. Thank you so much for downloading the podcast. And listen, I want to say thank you so much to Wayne Jacobsen for the last episode, episode 53, and this we're going to finish off our conversation. It was so good, and I wanted to really isolate out this last question and interaction that Wayne and I have. So we made it its own episode. And what I want to do is I want to welcome any new listeners that are coming over or joining us from the God Journey. I want to say a big thanks to Wayne for sharing the episode on his podcast, The God Journey. Such an amazing resource. I love The God Journey. I suggest you go listen to it, subscribe it. If you've come over from The God Journey, this is your first listen to the Daron Earlewine Podcast, welcome to the community. We're so glad to have you. And thank you for any and all of you guys that have left a review or a comment or subscribe to any of the channels, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast community. Anyway, hey, I got other good news before we jump into the last part of the conversation. I've talked to you guys for a couple months now about working on the book, The Death of a Dream. And last Wednesday, myself and Emily Sutherland, who was my co-writer, we finished the manuscript, which was an awesome, amazing day. Felt really kind of terrifying for me because I love the creative process. I'm not sure it's totally done. I could always tell another story. We could always work on it a little bit more. But I trust Emily. She's written a lot of books. She's my co-pilot on this. And she was like, I think we're done. I think it's good. We're going to wrap it up on Wednesday. And here's the cool part. Here's how God does really cool things. When we trust God with our life, when we bring God the good stuff, when we're continuing to step and to become who we're born to be, God does these cool little moments where you know he's just kind of giving you a wink and saying like, yeah, I got you. So we're sitting at lunch, finishing up the manuscript. And as Emily is emailing me the finished manuscript of my book, an email comes in from the publisher that we submitted the proposal to publish the book, saying that the book had been approved and was going to be published. And the crowd goes wild. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. No, guys, I'm so stoked. Dream come true. So sometime in 2022, The Death of a Dream, my first book will be published. And you can get it wherever you get your books. And I'll let you know when we figure out a publishing day. All that stuff has to be figured out here in the next few months. But just an amazing moment. I talk to you guys each and every week about becoming who God's created you to be. The God has a plan, that He's created you on purpose and for purpose. And I'm so indebted and so thankful to God that this is going to be a part of my journey. Something I've thought about doing for about 20 years now, being able to write a book and make an impact on people's lives. So it's happening, and I'm stoked about it, and I'll give you guys more information as it's coming down the pike. So, guys, we're going to talk today, finish off this conversation I had with Wayne Jacobsen. And Wayne wrote a book about a year and a half ago called A Language of Healing for a Polarized World. And it's a book that was, I love the way they approached it. He sat down with a friend of his, two friends of his, an older white gentleman and a middle-aged black woman friend that they had developed a friendship with, and talked about some of the more polarizing issues and things that can happen in trying to come together, specifically around racial issues. And they approached it much like a conversation between three people. I listened to the book on Audible. I loved listening to it. They read the book themselves in their own voice. And so you get a chance to sit down like you feel like you're sitting down with these three people. And it's a wonderful book. And I wanted to talk about this with Wayne because I feel like right now, things are getting worse. They're not getting better as far as polarization. I feel like every few weeks or months, there's a new issue that is brought to us to try to polarize and divide us. You think about, a year ago after the George Floyd murder, the issue of race, I believe, was put out and I think manipulated in ways that were actually not helpful for us to understand and come together. I believe that we were manipulated by the media and the powers that be to have to choose a side and get to the place where it's either this or that. It's us versus them, and more division was caused. And then you thought, well, that was bad. And then all of a sudden, here comes COVID. And then there's this issue, there's that issue. So there's masks or there's no masks. There's this or that. Now you come to the process where it's you're vaccinated, you're unvaccinated. Every single time we come to some new issue, basically what we're given is a binary lens to see it through. Pick your side and figure out ways to hate and demonize and dehumanize the other side. And I was sitting down with my friend Julie a couple weeks ago and talking about there was going to be I'll just say an event here locally that was addressing some of the more polarizing issues in our culture. It had to deal with schools and kids and a lot of different things. And I won't give the whole story, but the issue blew up. The event blew up in a way that they canceled it. And it was a really, really negative situation. And I sat down with my friend Julie and I said, Julie, how do we actually start helping have conversations and bringing people together in a way that doesn't make everything such an us versus them? And some of this was this actual event was going to be put on by some conservative Republicans, conservative white Christians. Okay, we'll just say that. And one of the issues in the process was the way that the event was positioned, and I think some of the thinking that went through it wasn't going to be an environment that created a space for healing. And when I was talking to my friend Julie, and she said that to me, that thought has stuck with me. And that's what I wanted to bring to Wayne, and we're going to have this conversation right now, is as Christians, if we're showing up in this world as little Christ, right? Christians, little Christ, our lives, our conversations, what we do should be creating a space and a place for healing. If you look at Jesus's life over and over and over again, all of his ministry, he was literally, physically healing people, but being in his presence was a place for healing, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. He brought healing. And if that's what we are, and that's who we are to be, we need to look at our life and say, are we creating that? And oftentimes, I don't think we are. I think most of the time we're trying to be right or we're trying to win. And that doesn't often create a place of healing. In Psalm 147, verse 3, it says that he heals the brokenhearted and he binds up their wounds. If we are going to be representatives of Christ, who he's made on purpose and for a purpose, and he's with us and he's for us, he's not against us, and he's near us, as we step into these moments with him for us in those moments, we will create places of healing. And I want to suggest you take a look at Wayne's book, A Language for Healing, for a Polarized World. I think you'll enjoy it. It'll be very instructive, and it'll make a lot of sense as you listen to the rest of this interview with Wayne Jacobsen. So stoked for his insight. He's going to take us through the 5 puzzle pieces to actually come into a place to creating a language and a place for healing. We'll talk about it when we get back, and I know you're going to enjoy it. Here's the second half of our interview with the one and only Wayne Jacobsen. Wayne, one last question. I'm going to have to take some time to chew on that one. And you just said real quick there, the difference of indulging ourselves and taking it and interpreting as a blessing. I'm going to put a pin in that because that's a whole podcast episode right there. I'm going to need to chew on that for a second. But I do feel like, whether it's a reckoning or not, that there is need for the church, and by the way, to say for followers of Jesus to be a place of healing in conversations, in relationships, in neighborhoods and schools. And you've spent so much time working on that. A Language for Healing, the book you had out. It's been out for 3 years now.
It's only a year and a half.
Year and a half. Wow.
Yeah, came out right before the pandemic hit, and
beautiful.
For the George Floyd murder, which kind of,
aptly timed by the Lord, I would say. And I mean, the book, not the death of George.
No, I hear you, but it's at that time when people are least able to hear because we're fighting.
Yes.
There's no people asking, is Bridge Builders really busy these days, which is the work I've done to help mediate these kind of disputes, and go, no, nobody's fighting for the common ground. Everybody's polarized. And part of that's because we're at 50-50. So if we just pull a few people over on our side, we don't have to worry about reconciling with that side. And you see it in Congress, you see it in your neighborhood. We had a big fight on the next door app in my neighborhood over coyotes, between those who say, we need to stem the tide of coyotes because there's a lot of them right now in this drought eating pets. And the people are saying, your pet can die. I don't care. Just wow. In a neighborhood, we're divided over coyotes and pets and anger. It's sad. But
so the book was a masterpiece. The way you guys took it as a conversation between 3 people. I felt like it created an environment when listening to it. I listened to it through Audible, gave an opportunity to feel like you were in a moment that you could try to navigate and learn. It's obviously unbelievably complex to unpack all this, so we can't. But and I would encourage you, if that's a place where you feel like God is nudging you into being a place of healing, is get the book, listen to it, read it. But what is something you could say, Wayne, that what is a first step? How about that? How do we take our first step towards learning a language of healing and being a person that can begin to maybe just create a space for healing in our lives?
Yeah, first step is an awkward question to answer because it really isn't a set of steps. It's more like puzzle pieces that kind of come into focus. So you kind of let some things come into your heart. One of those would be to value relationships over issues. Good. And be really good with the vaccine and the masking and all that. To start, okay, it's relationships that's most important, and not relationships of like-minded people. It's all relationships. So I'm going to value that over the issue and my place in the issue. Mistrusting your tribe is a big one. This monolithic tribe I think I'm part of, whether it's evangelical Christianity or Republican politics or wokeism or whatever you identify as your tribe, and then you kind of defend the barriers. And so as a Republican, we did this with a school district they read that book and they asked us to come and do some training from a language of healing for a polarized nation. And they wanted to write an anti-racism statement for a community college that's in the most conservative district in America. And they wanted community buy-in. And most people, even in the room, were thinking, we don't want an anti-racism statement because that'll admit there's racism here. And we don't believe there is racism here. And we're going, but over time, they did. They unanimously voted out a statement. Even the people that didn't think they needed it came to see they needed it. So you've got to realize your tribe isn't right about everything. You've got to hold your tribe in tension and realize we're wrong about some stuff. Maybe we don't know, maybe you don't know what you're wrong about, but I'm telling you, the manipulators at the top of it, whether it's media, whether it's politicians, they're manipulating that discord by making us hardened monolithic viewpoints. Like I've got people conservative now who are against racial equity because they use equity as equal outcomes, in the sense that if we both go to school and I work and you don't, we should all get the same grade and graduate, rather than equity means we have the same opportunity to get to the same success level, and your color of your skin can't matter.
Right.
But now I got people who ostensibly love Jesus who can't use the term racial equity, which makes it even more divisive from Black and brown people who are saying, you've got to talk about equity. There's not equity in this culture. Mm-hmm. And it's not the equity of equal outcomes, it's equal opportunity, but they miss it. Abandon binary thinking. Same thing. There's not an A and B to every issue. It's an A and Z that we're being given. And there's permutations, where it's immigration, whether there's lots of permutations. And I would say, realize how much you're being manipulated by politicians and media, and don't take all of it in. Take a little bit of media in and get out and talk to people who differ from you, and don't always make it about politics, make it about people and care. And those are some pieces, I think, that will allow hearts to begin to change enough. The most important one's going to be what we said earlier, living loved. If you don't know you're loved by God and God wants to heal things in your life, you'll not be a healer in the world. If you've got to protect and defend your position for your own benefit and quote unquote blessing, you'll not be a healer in the world. You're going to be a selfish person in the world.
Wow. So good. I'm just thinking about the idea of mistrusting your tribe. That is so difficult, but so good. And it makes me think about, I think it was Dallas Willard that said something like, to believe your beliefs and doubt your doubts, and believe your doubts and doubt your beliefs and believe your doubts, or something like that. Yeah. I said it wrong, but it was that idea of being able to get yourself to actually mistrust even your beliefs and your tribes, to get to the place where you have to go, and that's what got me started to create some positive momentum in my life, is I kept, people that I really loved and respected, and I knew they're really bright people that love Jesus. And on a political thought, they were completely polarized than I was. Mm-hmm. And so I had to come to the place of like, either I have to go, they're dumb, right? Or they know something and have a perspective that I don't have. And I knew they weren't dumb, and I knew they loved Jesus. So then I had to go, I think I may be missing something here that I need to see perspective wise. And it may not be like you're saying, it may not be the talking points of whatever tribe I may find myself within. And it was an uncomfortable but educational and journey that did bring me to greater love in the relationships. Like you're talking about valuing the people and relationships over the problems, over the issues.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. That's where it starts. It really starts relationally. If I get to know people, like for me, the whole racial thing, getting to know Arnita, they're working on this book, a Black lady from Dallas. She's changed my heart about so many things. Seeing the world through her eyes is very different. And I've realized until her, and I have many people of color, Black and brown people I've known all my life, but I now realize since writing that book, none of them have ever talked about race with me. I got Black friends, and they'll be around, and they're trying to fit into my culture because they realize my culture has benefits for them if they can fit in. So they're not going to tell me where I'm saying something that may be hard, because they're afraid I'm going to, reject them if I'm going to get offended about something they're going to identify. Wayne, when you said that, it was a little bit tough for me to hear. when I see the world through Arnita's eyes, and now through my other Black and brown friends, I just see it's a very different world than the one I grew up in. And I still know so many of my white, conservative, evangelical friends still can't see that world. They want to believe their world is accessible to everyone. Because they can point to this Black person or that guy who made success going through whatever, white culture, but they don't realize that how many more are marginalized than that. And our responsibility to whom, and that's how I look at quote unquote white privilege, which even the term I know is offensive to some people, to whom much has been given, much has been required. That's what Jesus said. So if you've got opportunity, however you got opportunity in this world, it was to share it with others, not to hold it for yourself or your family.
I think God said something like that to Moses one time.
And to Abraham, I'm going to bless you to make you a blessing.
Yes. Abraham, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, it's all about responsibility. It's all about responsibility rather than blessing. And Israel always misinterpreted. Oh, it means we're special, so we're better than you guys. We can kill you guys and hunt you guys down and do all that. And I think evangelicalism has fallen for the same trap. That the relationship with God is about our privilege rather than the blessing of the whole world and inviting others into the same experiences that are available to us.
Wayne, what I'm hearing and what's interesting is you talk about creating this language, in a place for healing relationally, one to another, of being able to see through someone else's perspective. I see the connection back to what you feel like God's inviting you into globally, or I need to be able to see from my neighbor's perspective to know that and it seems like maybe what God is doing is bringing you in this group even to the next level up and saying, okay, you started with seeing your neighbor's perspective. Now I want you to begin to gaze at the world and these issues from my perspective. And I think the result of both of those scenarios is going to be creating a place of healing and where light and love really do shine through.
Yeah, I hadn't made that connection. That's really cool.
It's beautiful. Wayne, I thank you so much for taking this time. I know you've got a lot going on, and I value your wisdom. Thank you so much for the journey that you have been faithful to take with the Lord. And thank you so much for making space for so many of us to walk with you. It's made a massive impact on my life, and I'm excited to share this conversation with my listeners, and at the same time, hopefully get them connected to what you guys are doing through the God journey and through Livestream, through everything. I'm indebted to you, and it means the world. So thank you so much for being on again.
Oh, you're welcome, Daron. Anytime. I enjoy talking with you. I enjoy the things you're thinking through and processing. It's a very honest, vulnerable conversation, and I love that.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Blessings on you.
Blessings too.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Wayne. So good. So good. Question. Here's a question. Are you becoming a healer in the world? Are you becoming a healer in the world? Because here's the thing, guys, our world needs healing. And as I said before we got into the interview, right, is if we're representing Christ, we're going to show up and our life will be a place for healing for people. And I think so often we think about that idea of healing. It's like, you mean we had to lay hands on people and heal them from, strep throat, whatever? Sure, yes. But you could heal somebody of strep throat and the brokenness in their life and their heart and their soul would not be touched. I think the deeper place for us as Christians to step into healing is not to pray for physical healing for people and just think we've done our job, but to actually, with our lives, with Christ being with us, the mystery of this great gospel, right, that Christ is in us, the hope of glory, that we actually step into relationships in our life. The blessings we've received from this connection with Christ become a blessing to other people, and our lives, our presence, our conversation, our language becomes a place of healing, to heal up the brokenhearted and to set captives free. That's what Jesus did. And I love the pieces that Wayne gave us. So these pieces, puzzle pieces that come into focus as we actually begin to shift our focus, to develop our life as a place of healing. First one, that we value relationships over the issue. As this is a difficult one. These are all difficult ones. That's why most of us aren't doing it. But do you value relationships over issues? I remember one of my friends, a great mentor couple for Julie and I, talked about even in our parenting. They said, listen, whatever issue you're going through with your kids, never sever the relationship. Always value the relationship and the connection to your kids over whatever issue you're working through. And we've tried to keep that in mind and keep that in focus. And I think it's made a difference in our parenting. And if we could keep that in focus in our relationships, with our friendships, in the community, I think it would make a huge difference and say, you know what, here's an issue that I care about. Here's an issue that I feel like is maybe even biblical. Here's something that I really care about and I think God cares about. But what I'm not going to do is fight for this issue in a way that is going to damage and that is going to hurt the relationship. And that just means I'm going to engage in this from a place, as Wayne talked about, I know that I'm loved, so I have nothing to prove, no one to please, right? Nothing to protect. I'm at a place of an anxiousness and connection and peace with God. And so I can step into this conversation that we're having over this issue, and I can make sure that I value who you are, made in God's image, and treat you with the respect, the love that the relationship demands. Not easy. Not easy at all. I know that's a true thing. I know Wayne said it, and I can agree with it, but I can tell you that it is very, very difficult for me. This morning, it was last night. Last night, I'm sitting around talking to my family about something that happened on the MTV Music Video Awards that were on a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not going to say actually what I said about somebody on the Video Music Awards, because it was not Christian at all. And my kids and my wife were like, I don't even know that you're a Christian, because it was a very judgmental statement. It was a very judgmental statement. It was not okay to say. And I realized how quickly I can be fired up about an issue that I really care about, an issue that may be really hurting people's lives. And it's so easy for me to villainize the person that's on the other side of the issue. And it's not what Jesus did, and it's not what I need to be doing. And it doesn't create a place or a language of healing. So we got to value the relationship over the issue. Mistrusting your tribe. This is a difficult one, guys. And this, Wayne is so right in this, is that we're so quick to identify ourselves around the tribes that we find ourselves connected to, whether that's political, racial, social, religious, right? I'm a Presbyterian, Democrat, Black, This is who I am. And I know, sometimes I don't even think I actually know. I think sometimes we have so internalized the different talking points, talking points and value systems within our tribe, that we don't even actually think about them. They just are the operating system within our brain, within our reactions, within our language. But we have to get to the place where we actually begin to mistrust our tribe and realize that we for sure have gotten a few things wrong. That's one thing that drove me nuts about when I was in a denomination within Christianity, and I'm absolutely non-denominational now, and I don't ever want to be denominational, because the thing about a denomination, same thing about a political party, the same thing about whatever tribe you're a part of, is you come up with what they called it in denominational speak, right? The denominational distinctives. And we had to make sure we in all the curriculum we created and the books that we wrote and what we did, that we really preserved and defended the denominational distinctives. That's terrible, in my opinion, because that's saying that whatever has made us distinct as a denomination is for sure right and better than all other denominations and thoughts. So we have to defend these because they're right, meaning that if we're right, that means they're wrong. That immediately sets us up in a place of an us versus them thinking, which then begins to polarize and allow us to actually elevate issues above relationships, which is coming back on point one. But if we can actually begin to mistrust our tribe, we can stop when we go, are there some things that we may have gotten wrong that we need to take a look at? And in the process of taking a look at it, is it going to bring me to a place of humility to be able to address this and create a space and a language of healing around me? That may take a while for you to really dig into. I encourage you to. I think you'll like what you find. Step 3 there, Wayne talked about, was abandon binary thinking. We've talked about this in the podcast, is everything. And I feel like the world wants us to believe that everything is an either or. It's black or white. And I find in life and the teachings of Jesus, so much was not black or white. He invited people into the unease of wrestling with God in the gray. It's most of the time, it's not either or, it's both and. It's not either grace or truth. It's both grace and truth. It's not mercy or justice, it's mercy and justice. It's very rarely binary. It's most often actually a beautiful mixture of truth that you have to wrestle with and get close to God, because guess what? God is more of a relationship than he is an issue. I think God invites us into the gray because that's what he wants us to realize. Hey guys, I'm not an issue for you to figure out and solve. I'm not an equation. I'm not a riddle. I'm a relationship, and I'm inviting you to realize that you can't just figure out that it's either or and go into your little corner of your tribe and say, this is it. We've got to figure it out. Now it's us versus them, and let's put it. No, we step into a relationship that is above and beyond anything that we can understand. And in the middle of it, we realize that it's actually both and. It's a beautiful mystery full of wonder that draws us deeper into the heart of the God that loves us. Then you realize you're being manipulated. We already talked about that. We got to keep moving. You just are. We are, because you're being manipulated by the media. And I'm not saying people are the evil people or something. There's great people in the media, but you're being manipulated because they need the system and structure of mass media to work. Where, I mean, if you haven't watched the documentary, The Social Dilemma, I believe it's called, about Facebook and everything, go watch it, because it'll blow your mind to realize that there are actual supercomputers. They're not even people. It's not even people trying to figure this out. There are supercomputers that are actually quite a bit smarter than we are and can process information way faster than we can, that are absolutely dialing in your social media feed to make sure that you continue to be sent articles and thoughts and comments from people that you agree with, so you agree with them and stay on and drive up the revenue of Facebook or whatever it is. So I'm not saying that people at Facebook are some evil person doing this. No, I'm saying they've set up supercomputer algorithms that manipulate your mind that you don't even realize is happening. We got to realize that, and realize if I step back from what I'm being fed and actually begin to think and ask the Holy Spirit to give me wisdom, things might change. Last thing that Wayne said there was you got to understand that you're living loved. We talked about that in that first episode, and it's huge. Here's the deal. I want to end with this, guys. We're going to wrap it up. Are you becoming a healer in the world? And a part of this is this. We talked about it briefly throughout both episodes here, but here's the question. Am I a blessing to others, or am I just indulging myself? Wayne said that right at the end of the last episode, and I wanted to bring it back because it hit me when he said it. And then as we brought back this idea of the call of Abraham, right? As when God came to Abraham in Genesis 12, right? And he says to Abraham, at that point to Abram, right? He hadn't changed his name yet, that leave your native country, your relatives and your father's family, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. And the families on earth will be blessed through you. This was the beginning of God's covenant with Abram that sets the standard for understanding our connection with God. This is the Old Testament covenant, and then when we get into the New Testament covenant through Christ, it's the same structure. And I think it's so important for us to see as we're trying to develop a place where we're developing a language in our life as a place of healing, is to see that any blessing, opportunity, anything good, anything that's the gospel, the good news, anything that God brings into our life, he's not doing it just so we can indulge in it and enjoy it. He's inviting us into this understanding that we are a conduit for blessing and healing to this world. So often I want to read that passage and I want to stop right after he says, I will bless you and make you famous. I don't want there to be a comma there. I'd like there to be a period. Actually, you know what? I would like it to be an exclamation point. Here's how I would wish this covenant with God would work, right? That the Lord said to Daron, leave your native country and your relatives and your father's family and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous! Exclamation point. Go, Daron. That's how I want it to work. So do you. You want to know why? Because we're selfish. But that's not the way it's structured. And I think so often in my life as I'm looking around at my issues that I believe in, the way that my tribe thinks about things, the way that I was raised, the way that I see my life, the fact that, going back to the last episode, that I see the world through my eyes first instead of saying, God, help me see the world through your eyes first. Help me to see how you see. Give me eyes to see and ears to hear as you do, God, because what I want to be able to do is I want to realize that the whole point of life, where the greatest joy of life is found is not that I would say, God, thank you so much for blessing me and making me famous. Is I would say, God, thank you so much for everything you've poured into my life. Open my eyes to see, in my ears, open my eyes to see the opportunity to be a conduit of blessing and healing, God, and open my ears to hear the cries of the oppressed and those that need your love and your healing. It changes the whole trajectory of my life to where I realize that I am a blessing. And if I'm going to be a blessing, I have to develop a language of healing and let my life be an environment of healing, or else I'm just indulging myself. You're going to need to just marinate on that one for a minute, friends, because it's thrown me for a loop here in the past week or so. Are you a blessing? Are you bringing healing? Are you bringing hope? Are you bringing comfort? As it says in 2 Corinthians 1:3-4, blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our affliction. Right? We have comfort, we have love, we have mercy, all these blessings that come from God. And these next 3 words are where it happens again. Once again, it's not a period, it's a comma. The God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our afflictions, so that we. I'm blessed, I'm comforted, all these things, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort which we ourselves are comforted by God. You're a conduit. You're a blessing. Don't be an indulger. Don't suck it all in for yourself and just let yourself be a retention pond of blessing. Be a conduit. Someone who values relationships over issues, someone who mistrusts their tribe, someone who abandons binary thinking and realizes that they're being manipulated and then begins living love and blessing others with the blessings that's come to them. Deep stuff, my friends, and it's a joy to share it with you today. Thanks for tuning in again. Would love to hear from you. You can reach out to me very simply. Just email me, Daron@blackbirdmission.com. You can also reach out to me through all the socials, Facebook, Instagram. Just search my name. I'm out there. Or you can text me directly, 317-550-5070. We'd love to hear from you. Know what you're thinking about this episode, past episodes. And until we talk again, my friend, remember these 3 things. God is for you, not against you. God is near you, not far away. And God has created you on purpose and for a purpose. Have a great week. Be a blessing. Create a space and a language of healing around your life. Until next time, friends. Appreciate you.